Shane, this episode was unforgettable.
Yeah. I mean, Joel was really in a rough spot there, don't you think?
Yeah, let's tee this episode up, shall we?
Yeah, I agree. I think Mark Mylod really hit a hole in one with this episode.
I would agree, and not just him. I think the creative team is really swinging for the fences here.
Yeah, really, I mean, not just a hole in one, but a Joel in one.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, I think that this episode kind of set the course for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I would say so.
Welcome back to Movies Good, Internet Bad. Episode 2 of season 2 of The Last of Us is upon us, and holy shit, what an episode of TV. I'm Corey, that's Shane. We're going to break it down and help you all process this. Go ahead, tap that subscribe button if you like movies and TV shows and you haven't already. And while you're clicking on buttons, click the like button too so we can pump this through the algorithm. There are going to be some massive spoilers here for
Yeah.
this episode. So if you haven't watched it yet, go watch it and then come back and check things out.
Just stay off the internet entirely.
For
Like, go
Christ's
away,
sake,
shut
yes.
down your browser, go watch the episode. Like, don't touch Twitter.
Yeah, go put on like the Golf Network or something for a little while and just watch like a replay of the Masters or something.
Yes, I think so.
God, fuck. Okay, so Shane, let's just get right into the big moment. There are going to be spoilers from here
Spoilers,
on out.
everybody.
3, 2, 1. Joel's fucking dead. There we go.
Yep.
It happened. They finally did it. How'd you feel about it?
I mean, I've been waiting 5 years for people who have not played the game to experience this moment. My wife was super pissed off about it, which was great. This is the kind of Last of Us equivalent to the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones. I think if you're a TV watcher and you experience that moment, and then everybody who read the books was super smug about it and telling you like, "Yeah, I knew this was coming."
Right.
That is us with the game in this show. This is a gigantic moment. It's very bold from a storytelling decision. I think it's brilliant, but I also know how the rest of the game goes. We won't spoil
Sure.
any of that for people who have not played the game, by the way.
Yeah.
But big moment, and I don't think a lot of people expected something like this to happen so early in a season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
What do you think of
she
how it was
said it.
executed? Yeah,
She said it last episode. We're gonna kill him, right? And you think to yourself, okay, fine, sure. It's gonna
it's
take the
Pedro
entire
Pascal,
season to
right?
get their major A-list celebrity playing the role. We're gonna milk that for all it's worth. No, no, no.
Nope.
I was. I This might be controversial, Shane, but I thought that it was done better in this than it was in
It
the video
is.
game.
It is. There's one specific thing that is different in the show than the game that a lot of people didn't like about the game, which was in the game Joel willingly gives up his name. And people
Mm-hmm.
are like, Joel would never do that. They'd be secretive about it. But in this, they actually have Dina shout his name
Mm-hmm.
early and not knowing anybody else was there. So they fixed that little, lapse in logic from
Yeah.
the game, did it a little bit better. The Also the realization that Abby's dad was the doctor
Yes.
was not put in that part of the game. It was
Correct.
revealed much later. You see Joel die very early in the game, and you don't know why Abby did it, and then you find out later. Whereas here, they let you know up front. And I feel like it's kind of necessary for a TV show, the way it's structured, to do it this way rather than the way it was done in the game. And I won't go too much on the game show comparison, but that one was pretty big. Like it's done slightly differently just because of the different medium, but Caitlin Dever, man, put on a hell of a performance here.
She had that dog in her for this one.
Yeah, that
Good
monologue.
God.
And for anyone doubting the physicality of Caitlin Dever, based on in the game she's like muscular, and in this she's not. She nails it. She's got that demeanor.
Yep.
She is playing Abby perfectly in this.
Yeah, it worked for me really well. Not related to the death scene, but earlier before she gets rescued, the fact that she's not like massively bulked also kind of made it feel like she was even more vulnerable when she was running from the
Yeah,
infected and whatnot.
yeah,
And like all the thought of, well, does it matter if she has big biceps or not, just went like completely out the window. I
yeah.
thought.
It was interesting watching the show with somebody who did not play the game, because while
Right,
she was
right, right.
running, my wife was like, oh, she can't die. She's too important to the story, and like rooting for Abby, and then that suddenly turned very quickly.
Mhm. Well,
Yeah.
that's one of Neil's things, right? Neil Druckmann has said that this season and the second game is all about perspective and
Hmm.
how the hero of the story is different depending on whose shoulder the camera is over. Um,
Yeah.
Crazy stuff, man.
I
Really,
think that
really well
that is the thing to understand about not not just this game, but this franchise in general.
done.
There is no main character of The Last of Us, and a lot of people think that it's Joel, but really he is the main character of season one,
Yeah. Yep.
and his actions have a direct consequence with Abby, right?
Yeah.
Everything that he does, which in his mind he can justify, from somebody on the other side of things, they cannot justify that. And I
Correct.
think that people who are looking at it like, well, Joel's the good guy. There are no good guys in The Last of Us. There are
Hmm.
survivors. That is
Yep.
all that there is. And so all of these choices have consequences. That's a recurring theme throughout this franchise. And that if you think about how the story had to go, I love whenever I listen to, for example, Jesse Armstrong on Succession.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
he always said when he was writing the show, it was like a natural flow of how things had to go given how it was written.
Hmm.
It wasn't you had to fulfill something about what the fans expected or what the fans wanted.
Yeah.
It was logically how should the next sequence of events go.
Hmm.
And in this, Joel kills all the fireflies. There are people related to the fireflies that will come after him. That is a
Yeah.
direct consequence of what he did. You can't
100%.
just do that and just wish it away.
Yeah.
And that's it is what it is. And I
Yep.
think a lot of people will be pissed off about it. I've already seen a couple of tweets, people are furious about it, but I
Hey.
would suggest you stick with it because this is a pretty intense story, a pretty emotional story, and there's a lot left to go.
Yeah, I don't want to make too many Game of Thrones comparisons because it's easy to do that with an
Yeah.
episode like this that had a director who did some Game of Thrones episodes
Hmm.
and an attack sequence that kind of felt like the Hard Home episode from
It
season five
did,
of Game of Thrones,
which he
um,
directed.
which he directed.
Yeah.
But there's a scene, or there's one little scene in the lodge where Abby calls Joel a piece of shit, and Joel just kind of gives her a little, like a very slight nod, and he's like, "Yeah, I know." I am, right? Like, and it's the hero admitting I'm not the hero, right?
Hmm.
And then season one of Game of Thrones, everyone loves Ned Stark, everyone loves Sean Bean. It's a very similar idea. A lot of people are upset when he gets off at the end of that season, but his death is the thing that propels every
Yes.
single character arc
Yep.
for the next however many seasons of that show. We don't talk about season 7 and 8, first 6 seasons of that show, and it's really important that it happens.
Yep.
Does it suck to lose an actor of Pedro's quality? Sure. Are we going to lose him entirely? I don't think so. I think we'll still see some more of him, at least throughout the second season, whether that's through flashbacks or whatever. But the gravity of taking him out the way that they did,
Hmm.
and the final shot of the episode when the two horses are going out into the horizon and the body bag is just towing behind with the blood coming out of the top of the head is just that, and the way that they faded it right down onto the horses was just like that's going to burn in people's brains, man. And that's what you watch TV for. Like, at least that's what I watch it for.
Yeah. I also want to shout out Bella Ramsey because her
Oh,
reaction in this was excellent. That pretty much directly how the game did it.
mhm.
But man, that's just such a heart wrenching sequence that you have to watch your father figure die in
Yeah.
front of your eyes. Uh, and that will have consequences too. But Game of Thrones is actually a great comparison because everyone who dies in that show dies because they did something incorrectly,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty big.
Man, we're almost 10 minutes in and we've only talked about one thing that has happened in this episode, but it is such an important moment, that, like, I can't stress enough how big that is for this story and what it's going to do for the characters moving forward. In the behind the scenes, Craig Mazin, who expertly wrote this episode, he mentioned that in life we have a tendency to think, well, I can handle this much stuff, and if it gets above this, I can't handle it. And then life decides, we're here now.
Yeah.
That's Ellie. right?
Yeah.
Like, how is she going to deal with this awful, awful, awful loss, especially, in very poetic, typical cinematic fashion? They never really made up,
Yeah.
right? And you have to live with that. It's one of those things where it's almost like a lot of people say, they always say I love you to their significant other before they go to sleep, because God
Yeah.
forbid the other person died in their sleep or something. Like, it's
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Man, it's just really heavy. It's really, really, really good. So
Yeah.
uh let's talk about everything else.
Yeah. Because I think like this
The
will be
happier
the big,
stuff.
yeah. This will be the big thing everyone talks about. But there was like a good amount of other stuff that the whole sequence in Jackson was huge, big
It's
budget,
incredible.
big action sequence. I loved the creativity of how they fought off the infected by
Hmm.
pushing the barrels out far enough away from the
Yeah.
wall that it won't, destroy the wall, and then shooting them. And shooting the gasoline does not explode the tank, which is something that action movies do all the time. It just
Yeah, it
leaks
just unleashes
gasoline,
the gas. Yeah.
then they throw the fire, right? So like it's all done very logically. To
Hmm.
compare it to Game of Thrones, like a lot of people got pissed at the very ending battle sequence in uh, Winterfell because none of the logic made any sense. But the
Okay.
logic all made sense to me here.
Yeah, no,
I
for
also
sure.
like they tee up a couple other things like
Tee
stay
up.
off the main
Yeah.
road. It's stay off the main road because we're gonna shoot everyone on the main road. Basically,
Right.
that's their setup. But uh, having Tommy in here to lead was also something that none of this happened in the game. By the way,
Yeah,
the
no, this is
Jackson fight was
all new.
all
Yeah.
new for the show. But Tommy as a leader, it's good to see both his marksmanship and his leadership
Hmm.
uh, in this experience. Um, but I just you could see the budget on the
Oh yeah,
screen.
every dollar.
Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, I also liked the fight between Tommy and I think it's a Shambler is the big infected. I'll have to double
They
check that.
they called it a bloater in the behind the
Is it a bloater?
scenes.
Okay,
I don't
then
know
it's
if they're just saying that's what it is to simplify things or whatever, but to have something that big have to go one on one with a human, and then they have these amazing flamethrowers that they've constructed, like super super cool stuff.
yeah. Um, but I loved the little trick where he was using the flamethrower. He ran out of the flamethrower, and it wasn't like somebody shot him from the side to save him. He just
Hmm.
falls over dead. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
actually
yeah,
worked. I kind of like that because I was
yeah,
expecting like his wife to come and shoot the zombie in the back, and that's what saved
yeah.
him. And that's like a
Although
very tropey thing to do.
she was awesome in this episode
She
too.
was great. She was great.
Like, there's a shot that they did where they have the camera like solely positioned right behind her shoulder, and they're just following her as she's like mowing dudes down and whatnot. I was like, this is like just incredible stuff. Like, this
Hmm.
is television. This is not a movie.
Yeah,
Like, holy cow.
I thought it
Uh,
looked great.
yeah, all the visual effects look fantastic. Their use of prosthetics throughout is great, where it's not
Hmm.
just like put dots on somebody's forehead and then CGI you know the infected stuff onto them. They're doing the makeup, they're doing everything. They talked in the behind the scenes about how they 3D laser scanned Pedro Pascal's face, both with his eyes open and his eyes closed, to build the prosthetic for the stuff at the end and everything. Like,
Gotcha.
they have a big budget for all of this stuff this
Yeah,
year, and maybe
as
that's
they
why it's
should.
only 7 episodes.
Yeah,
Honestly,
the viewership is high. It was higher than they expected,
yeah,
per the podcast with Craig Mason and Neil
yeah,
Druckmann. They said they far surpassed the viewership that they expected, and so obviously they're going to get a lot more budget for this, so they
yep,
can do stuff like this.
yeah,
Um, but a couple other things I want to point out just from the rest of the episode.
yeah, yeah. Please do.
Um, so one thing that gets mentioned early is that Ellie does mention like they talked it out a little bit. They're working through it, which we didn't see that, but
Right.
we hear that it happened. I just wanted to point that fact out because it seems like they've had a conversation where they're trying to work their stuff out, and so maybe we'll find out more in the rest of the season uh, with regards to that conversation.
Hmm.
Couple other things. They go into that 7-Eleven and they talk about Eugene a little
Hmm.
bit more.
Yep.
Eugene was mentioned in the first episode. Catherine O'Hara's character was married to Eugene,
Married
but
to him.
Joel had to
Yeah.
kill
Yep.
Eugene. The reference I'm getting, or the inference I'm getting there, is that he was infected and Joel had to kill him He had no other choice, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they mentioned a couple other things about Eugene. He's, weed dealer, weed grower, which that's
Yep.
from the game too. But I'm guessing because Eugene is cast as a character in the show, that we'll see more of Eugene.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about this last week, that we think it's going to be similar to the Bill and Frank episode.
Yep.
I keep wanting to say Bill and Ted for some reason. Like, it's just ingrained in my memory that it's
Could
Bill
you
and
imagine?
Ted.
Dude. Whoa.
Infected. Well, there was a lot of weed, right? So, no. But no, the Bill and Frank episode from season 1, we think they're going to replicate that with Eugene and maybe a little bit of flashback sequence there. Another thing that was cool was the use of the dogs against the infected.
That was great.
It's like the dogs coming to save the day. My dog was barking a lot when those dogs appeared on screen. He loves watching TV and watching other dogs. I think that's the main stuff that we pointed out. We kind of, obviously, we talked about the big moment. We talked about the reveal that Abby, her dad was the doctor in the hospital that Joel killed. I like the interactions with the other characters. I won't get into game spoilers yet. We'll get to that in just a few minutes. But the interactions between the characters you're getting between Owen and Abby and Mel, and getting that dynamic. Owen and Mel had a little moment. So the inference there is maybe they have a relationship together. But there's also this sort of relationship between Abby and Owen that's a little bit complicated too. Owen seems to care for Abby and wants to talk her down from doing this. Like, let's just go home. This is stupid. Right. He doesn't really want to do it, but he's doing it because Abby has to do this, right? This revenge story. But, all of them are kind of on Abby's side, but they're not really supporting her. And so it's interesting, how is that consequence going to unravel that, Ellie sees all of them in that room. Is she going to hunt down all of them, or just Abby? Or, she sees all of the close people to Abby.
Right.
Similar
and Dina
to
knows
how
all their names, because
correct.
Dina hears all their names before they give her the injection that puts her to sleep. So that will catapult things to where we're going without spoiling.
Another interesting thing to point out is that Abby specifically says, like, don't hurt anybody else. Help everybody else. We are just here for Joel. We're not going to give any collateral damage. We only want to kill Joel, and we're out of here. So that's pretty important. She says she doesn't have a code, but she kind of has a code, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
She talks about that. We also get introduced to the WLF, which is a militia in Seattle that they are a part of.
Very important.
I'm guessing we will see more of that. But we get introduced through the little logo on the backpack. And she tells a little bit of a life story that she's been in the militia for 5 years.
when she said to Joel, "Oh, it's up in Seattle. Don't go up there." But I don't think you'll really have the chance to, because she knows exactly where.
Yeah. Well, even if she didn't kill him at that point, it's going to be a hard walk for him with his shotgun shell to the foot.
Yeah, his leg looked bad.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That scene was pretty gruesome, more gruesome than the game.
I'd agree.
A little bit more violence.
But as much as I hate to say it, it hits a little bit harder when you see it with real people instead of video game characters. So the suspension of disbelief is like, God, that's some heavy stuff. But overall, the way that they crafted the episode and they interweaved everything, it felt unsettling at the beginning, and then that just cranked up and up and up. Which, it's the guy that directed the Connor's Wedding episode of Succession. We probably should have all seen that coming. But I texted you, like, I literally hit pause on the episode, and I texted you halfway through and said, I am extremely uncomfortable right now. And I knew what was going to happen. And I was like, man, they're nailing this. Absolutely crushing it.
The tension there was excellent. I think I really don't have any complaint. Like, before this season started, when they announced the director list and I saw Mylod was doing episode 2, I said, that's the episode, right? They bring in Mylod to do the most important thing. Like, HBO has such a good, like, high esteem of Mark Mylod, and they should. He's an excellent director. He did The Menu as well. Like, everything he does is excellent. But when they want something to succeed, they put Mark Mylod on the project. And so in this case, they put Mark Mylod as the director for this big episode, and I think he delivered.
I was ecstatic with how this turned out, because this
Yeah.
is such an important moment in the
It's
story
if this
that
didn't work, the season would not work.
right, it would fail
Yeah.
catastrophically, and thankfully it did not. So
No.
let's take like 2 or 3 minutes here and talk about video game stuff.
Yeah.
So for anybody who doesn't want to know stuff, feel free to tune out now. You're not going to kill our view duration. Thanks for the algorithm. Like and subscribe. So I said it before. I think this was done better than it was in the game.
Yeah. So a couple key changes. Dina is with Joel, whereas in the game it's Tommy and Joel.
Yep.
And that's one thing that they changed, because like Dina is kind of innocent, right? Like Tommy and Joel, Tommy knows what happened, what Joel did in the game, by the way. And so when they meet a group of strangers and Tommy and Joel are going at like, oh, I'm Tommy, I'm Joel, it felt kind of weird that like,
Right.
why would they give up their identity to these unknown people, because they know what Joel did to a bunch of Fireflies. So like the word probably got out. And in this, they have Dina play that role, and she does it very innocently, like just calling out for Joel.
Yep.
But then it's interesting too, because they established that Dina and Joel have a relationship in episode 1, which that wasn't really the case in the game. And so for me, like what's happening next, where they go hunt down Abby, this hits a whole lot harder because Dina has a reason to do it. She was there for it. She couldn't help Joel. It's kind of her fault because she gave up the name, and like all of that gives her a reason to go beyond just, hey, my love interest wants to go hunt this guy down.
In the game, it kind of feels like the very typical, like, oh, well, you're going on this really dangerous mission. No, you're not going alone. I'm going with you. And they just kind of tag along. Now there's going to be some guilt on Dina's behalf, because if Dina didn't outright say the word Joel, we might not even be in this situation.
Yep. So really I loved how that was done, and it was not done like, you don't hate Dina for doing it. It's not her fault, right?
Yeah.
This was like a big thing when it happened in the games. Everyone complained about that, giving up his identity willingly. But in this case, he doesn't do it. He does it when he's basically has no other choice. So love cool that aspect.
When a creative gets like a mulligan to do it over
again. Yeah.
Because Neil is heavily involved in the show. So
yeah, he saw what people complained about, and that's taking criticism, right? Like, you're going to get so much criticism for what you do, and you got to filter what's a good criticism, what's a bad criticism. And he kept everything the same that should have been the same, changed up some things to improve things, and I think it came out better the second time.
Yeah, I think so too. Do you think that next week we're going straight to Seattle, or are we going to?
I think we're getting the Eugene episode, and then we're going to go to Seattle.
Which is funny, because the Bill and Frank thing is episode 3 of the first season. So
it feels like a if people tune in next week, like expecting the story to continue, they're like, what if we pause for a second?
Right. Yeah.
But maybe not. I could easily see it going the other way, where they're like, well, if we don't immediately set more stakes right away, people might tune out. So maybe they will do one more episode than the Eugene episode. But I'm not sure. I kind of feel like they're pushing more of these Joel flashbacks to maybe one singular episode. So maybe it's the Eugene episode plus more Joel flashbacks. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I have a feeling, and it could be right, could be wrong, but I think Neil directed the 6th episode of this season.
That's your museum episode.
I think that's the one where they're going to do all that stuff. So,
and I will weep like a baby.
It's going to be absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
Correct? Well, don't correct me. I'm asking because I can't remember. Does Abby talk about the leader of the WLF in the lodge in the video game?
I don't think in the lodge. That whole monologue was changed and extended substantially. I don't think she talks about.
That's Isaac, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I've heard we're getting more Isaac, played by Jeffrey Wright, in the game and the show.
And in the show, and he's fantastic. So I can't wait to see what he does.
Yeah. I'm very excited for that. But for as much as we talked about episode 1 kind of extending the story, I wasn't sure if, like, after episode 1, I was like, how are they going to fill, like, at what point are they going to stop from the game? Because you spent an entire hour of stuff that basically is not in the game. And then they're like, hey, by the way, the next like 3 hours of the video game, is one episode. So they like they extended and then they sped it up, and so it's pretty interesting.
And they threw a giant battle in there that just
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
happen in the
yeah,
game. During the behind the scenes, Gabriel Luna, who's the actor that plays Tommy, was like,
yeah,
I read the script and then I thought to myself, well, that's cool, but they're going to have to cut this down and pare it down to be smaller. And he was like, the inverse happened. He was like, as we got closer to shooting, they made it bigger and they kept going and going. And
yeah.
the end result, I mean, it worked so well. I mean, there were all those people last season that were like, there's not enough infected. Well, they were like, here's your infected. here's a
Yeah.
here's a horde of them just everywhere. So I'm excited. Are you still thinking theater is where the season ends?
I think
or
so
is your
now.
yeah, okay.
I thought earlier after last week, but now I think we're back on track. So yeah, theater
Okay,
sounds right.
cool.
We'll
Any
see.
other stray thoughts
No, I'm gonna go read Reddit and Twitter for like all day
3 hours?
tomorrow. Yeah.
I'm going to wake up to a lot of text messages from you
Yep.
about how people thought about this
Yep.
episode. And as we bring this one to a close, this is where I ask you, our loving audience, how did you feel about this episode? Are you a gamer? Are you a non-gamer? What did you think? Is it controversial? Was it the right move? Was it done well? Drop us a comment below. Let us know what you think. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to this channel if you have not already, and tap that little notifications bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Shane just got back from Universal's new Epic Universe theme park. I'm checking it out this week, so I think we're probably going to put together a little video about our thoughts there for the theme park nerds. And then Andor starts this week. If the peak television tonight
I'm
wasn't
hyped.
enough, there's 3 episodes of peak television coming this week. So we're gonna have probably one video for the 3
Yeah.
episodes that
Yeah.
dropped this week. So be on the lookout for all of that and so much more. And until next time, we'll see you guys in the next video.